Hey there guys, how's it going? Today I wanted to make a simple image resizer using the HTML canvas. So you just need to enter an image and the size you want to assign to it, then hit that button and you're done. So let's try an example. Let's take that image for example and let's give it a width of 150 pixel by 150 height. Take a preview and you can now download your image and save it, and that's it. Okay, but keep in mind that's not gonna have a high resolution, so as soon as you zoom into a certain point you'll get that creepy thing which is not that great. And as I said, it's gonna be a beginner app, so I wouldn't care much about the result, because what matters is what we learned and what we used in this mini project, and that's my opinion. So I think that's quite enough for the intro, and let's get started. Okay, so I have a folder with 3 files: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we'll start with this image shortcut by typing an exclamation mark and then a tab gives us this boilerplate. Emmet is a great and powerful tool to improve your workflow. So let's just set the title to image resizer and then link the CSS file. So style.css. I think we better have a bigger font. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the first div. So we're gonna have 2 divs. One will be for the inputs and the other one for the result. So I'm gonna start with this one div, and I'm gonna give it a class of inputs. Then I'll have an h2 tag, which will say resize your image. Okay. And then we're gonna have a form. Okay, I'll leave that for now. And I'm gonna start with the labels. So I'll say label. I'm gonna leave that empty for now. And we're gonna have the input. And right now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy and paste these 2 lines twice. And I'm gonna go first with the width and the height. I'm gonna leave this image input for now, which has more attributes, which I think could make it a little bit more complex. So, and that's why I'm gonna start with the width. So set that to width, and this one will be the height. And I'm gonna get rid of that, as well as with this one. Now let's just get rid of that thing now. And the width is going to be a number given from the user, so we'll set the type to number. Okay, and as well as this one. And for the width, I'm going to give it an ID of im width, and as well as that one, give it an ID of im height. Then I'm going to go back to here and give that a placeholder, and I'll say enter width in px. Okay, and I'm going to set the placeholder now here and set this to height. Okay, so now we need to get back to the image input, and for that we're gonna have to set the input and ID, and then we're gonna need to add a couple of attributes which are accept and on change. So let's just first specify the type, which is a file input, because this is gonna be an image, and I'm gonna give it an ID, and I'm gonna call it file again. And just like I said, we're gonna have a couple more attributes. The first one is accept, which is an attribute that specifies the type of file that will be loaded by the user which should be an image file, and we say that by typing image slash an asterisk, right? And the second attribute would be the onChange. So onChange is pretty similar to onClick, like on buttons, for instance. It's just like adding an event listener to a button. So whenever the user click on that image input, let me just save this. So whenever the user click on that image input right here, we should run a function that will load in this image. So I'm gonna call this image load. I'm gonna call this function, load image, and it will have a parameter, an event, and this is gonna be done in JavaScript later on. Okay, that's it for the form, and we'll have a button to preview our image. So right here, I'm gonna say button. I'm gonna give it a type of submit, and it should have an ID called preview, and again the text in here should be preview. Okay, alright, the second part would be very quick and simple. We just wrap the result box in a wrapper, and for that I'm gonna say div, then wrapper, and the resized image that we want to display in this box will be displayed in a canvas element. So we're gonna have a canvas, and I'm gonna give it an ID of results. So I'll just start by the canvas and give it an ID of result, just like I said. And inside this canvas, we're gonna have an image tag in which we will locate our preview. So I'll say img, and I'll leave the source empty now, and give it an ID of img displayed. Okay, that's it for the markup, and now let's get into the styling part. Okay, so in CSS we're not gonna have anything special, just some simple normal stuff. And let me just start with the HTML and body, and set the font family to Helvetica or sans serif. I'm gonna set the margin left to 5%, and there is no padding. Okay, that's it. How does that? There we go. Now let's take the content now. So we have two main divs. The first one, which has a class of inputs, and the second one will be reserved for the image. Now I'm gonna give each one half the viewport width. So I'm gonna just bring them inputs and the wrapper, and I'm giving them a width of 45%, which is not the exact half, and I'm giving them this value because we set the body's margin left to 5%, and this will make them centered. Then we're gonna have a height, set the height to auto, and we'll flow them to the left so they appear in the same viewport. Set the margin to 1em, and that's it for the common properties. Okay, nothing is shown in here. Now we're gonna center align everything in the wrapper. So I'll say text align center, which doesn't show right now because we haven't uploaded any image and resize it. So next time we'll have to get into the input, and I want to see them in a vertical order, just like this one, on top of each other. So for that, I'm gonna set the display to table. Okay, now if I save that, and let's see, let's have the margin bottom of 1em and width of 60%, font size to 16 pixel. I have a border of 2 pixels solid. And I have this light blue color 78A0F1. Okay, and then we're gonna have a border radius 5 pixel, and finally the padding should be 3 pixel. Save. Okay, that's it. That's quite similar to this one, except we need to get into the upload image button. Okay, now we're gonna have a kind of tricky part for the upload button, but let's just first take the file input, which has an ID of file. So say file. Now if you try to style the file input, I'm talking about that one, you'd probably end up scratching your head because you won't be able to do anything. So all you need to do, in my opinion, is to set the file input width and height to a tiny value like 0.1 pixel. And that's what I'm gonna do, width to 0.1 pixel and height as well, 0.1 pixel. If I save, I'm gonna see a little tiny square circle right here, which stands for the input. Okay, but if you want to set the display, for example, to none, or visibility to hidden, or even 0 pixel for width and height, I think this might lead to some problems when you're dealing with backend stuff. I could have done it this way, but you might fall in that trouble with your backend fellow, or maybe yourself, and you end up throwing shit on me when I try to teach you something. I mean, this could happen, who knows. Anyways, so to get rid of that tiny circle, I'm gonna set the opacity to 0, and that's it. Okay, so as I said, we set the input opacity to 0, and we kind of got rid of it doing that 0.1 pixel thing. Okay, and that's why we should take care of the image label, which will be the button for uploading an image. So I'm gonna go back to my HTML file and give this label right here another attribute, which is called for. And what this means, it's gonna be reserved for the image input file tag. So it kind of seems like everything you do on this label would be done on this input. Hope this makes sense. So we're gonna install the image. So I'll just first give it file, value, and that's how it works. So we're gonna install the image label and make it look like a button. So say upload. I think this upload should be a class for this label. Upload. Come on. Right. And then in here, I'm gonna give it a color of white. And I'm gonna set the background to the same color right here, 78A. And then there's a padding of 5 pixel. Then I'm gonna give it a border, 2 pixel solid, and that same color. Then I'll set the border radius to 5 pixel as well, and the font size to 20 pixel. And finally we'll set the cursor to pointer. Okay, if I save, where is it? I think, oh man, I haven't set the label text. Right here we should say input an image. Or I think we better say upload an image. Upload an image. And that's it. That's how it should be. Okay. Okay, so we still have this button here. Let's just give it the same styles. This one. So if I save now, there we go. And I think that's it for the styles. So we need to get into the big part, which is JavaScript. Alright, so the first thing I'm gonna do is to get some elements from the markup. And I'm gonna start with the canvas, and what I would say, const canvas equals to document dot get element by ID, and I'll get that canvas which has the an ID of result, right? Then I'm gonna set its context to 2D, and this means that this canvas is gonna have a two-dimensional context. So we're gonna be dealing with X and Y axis to define the image location in the canvas. So I'm gonna say const, and this context is commonly called CTX. You can call it whatever you want, and I would say canvas dot get context and assign it to 2D, right? Okay. Now if we were on a 3D context, we need to add the z-axis, and we need to change this one to 3 instead of 2. Okay. And I think Canvas has been so popular when it comes to online games and that kind of thing. I don't know if it still has this popularity now, doesn't, but it's really a cool tool for so many applications if you want to grasp more JavaScript and more UI stuff like that. Okay. Now the canvas is going to act somehow like a global container for the image, but the real container should be an image tag. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that one in a while. Okay. Alright, now the way we upload an image is by creating a function that we already called load image when we first started writing the HTML, which is the value of the onChange attribute we set in this input file. So let me just first create this function, which called load image, and it should have an event just like I said. Okay, now we want to display the image that we will bring from our local storage. We want to display it in this image tag which I talked about a while ago. So first off, we'll get this img displayed element, and eventually we will fill its source with the image URL we took from our machine. So let's just bring it, and I'm gonna say const image is equal to document dot get element by ID, and it's called img displayed. Okay, now that we got the container, which is that image, we need to fill its source attribute with the uploaded image URL, and this could be done this way. We're gonna have an event handler, but let me tell you how this works. So I'll say image.source is equals to URL dot. So we're gonna be creating an object URL for this one, object URL, and then we're gonna have an event handler that will hold a value retrieved from the image file, which has been uploaded as a URL. It kind of sounds tricky, but I'm sure you will get it. So the way we do that, we say event dot target, and then files of 0 index, which is the first index of the file, which is the first file we took from our local storage. Hope this makes sense. Okay, now we're gonna start playing with the resizer. So first we need to get the preview button, which will eventually have an event listener. So I'm gonna say const preview equals to document dot get element by ID, which has this ID, I guess. Okay, and then I'll say preview, but add event listener. Yes, that's true. And whenever we click on that button, we should run a function called prev. Okay, don't worry about the name, doesn't matter. Now we should start creating this function, and I would say function, excuse me, it's called prev, and it doesn't have any parameter, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't have any parameter. So the image in result will take the user's inputs as width and height. So let's first get these two inputs, and I'm gonna say const im width, just like we call it a while ago. So then say document dot get element yd, which is im width, right? And I'm gonna copy and paste this one, and I'm gonna do the same exact thing with the height. Okay, that's it. All right, well, basically we're gonna need to take the values from these inputs, the values in these two inputs, which will be filled with by the user, and that's why we just need to add this method value to each one of them. Okay, and I'll say value to that one. So these are the values that we are going to use when we want to draw the image in the canvas. Now, to make anything with the canvas, we should say ctx dot something. Okay, anything in here doesn't mean anything, but some of the canvas methods, it doesn't mean anything you want to put. So these methods sometimes require some parameters, which will be our case. So to display the image in the output box, we're going to use a method called draw image, because that's how Canvas mindset works. It defines it as a drawing. So I'm going to say ctx.draw image, and the first thing, it's going to be the container in which we should put this image, we should draw this image. And our container is actually that one. Okay, so let's say image, then comma, and now we should specify the position and the location, and from where to start in this container. So I'm gonna set the x position to 0 and the y-axis to 0 as well. Now we got these coordinates of this image. Now what we need the dimensions of this image, which are going to be the im width and the im height, right? So we're gonna take these values and we're gonna put them in here. Hope this makes sense, but I think this won't work because we didn't brought the image, so we used this image container in here and we didn't declare it in this function. So we just set it as a local variable in the other function. So let me just bring it, and now I think this should work. I think it's all okay in these files, but there is a problem in I didn't call the script tag, so we should call our file main.js. Okay, so we can work no stress. So let me just try an example. Gonna give it 150 pixel by 150 pixel, take a preview, and it works fine. So this is cool now, this is working. Now if I try to save that, what would it look like? So it gives us this image which is not centered in here. If I wanted to say some details about this image, I'm gonna see that it has, I'm gonna talk about the dimensions in this one. No, it has a 300 pixel by 150 pixel, which is not the real values we put in these inputs. So I think that's because the canvas width and height have been set as fixed values, which means we can't have a big size image, or even if we want a small image, it will show up in the center of the canvas, and we'll have an empty big space all around the small image, which doesn't make sense. So I thought I can assign the same image size to the canvas, which means it wouldn't have a fixed size, just like we put a while ago. And for that, I'm gonna go back to here, and I'll just say canvas dot width is gonna be equal to im width, and then canvas dot height is actually going to be the im height. Right? I'll just make some spaces in between these things, and I think it should work now. If we save it and I try another one, give it 150 pixel by 150, take a preview, save it, and that's it. Now this is an image that has 150 pixel by 150 pixel, which is okay, which is what we need. Okay, now we need to reset this form whenever we submit a couple of values in here. So to do that, I'm gonna just say I'm gonna first off bring this form, say form equals to document dot get element, or I'm just gonna say query selector, and I'm gonna take the form, okay, and then I'm gonna say form dot reset, okay, and that should work fine at this moment. So if I try another one, say 350 by 350 preview, that's it, and you can see that the values disappeared, and it reload the form. Okay, that's been it, guys. Try to make some improvements even in the layout, because it doesn't look that cool. By the way, I'm terrible with the design, just to be honest. I made a download button, but I didn't include it in this tutorial, just to avoid overwhelming you guys. But in case you're interested, you can check one of my previous videos where I explained how to proceed in creating this button. Anyways, I'll provide a GitHub repository for that project, including the download button. Alright, thanks for watching, and see you later.